And welcome to those who are joining us via Zoom. Now, I'd like to start by recognizing any visitors with us tonight. I think we've got a few visitors.
Yeah.
Your name?
Nora,
Your call sign?
is KG4YLE.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I think you've joined us before,
I've been here.
and you've been here, great. Any other visitors? Oh,
I just paid my dues.
okay, you're.
Meetings on Kilo Mike 4, November 5.
Great, welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. Anybody visiting by Zoom?
And then this post, I thought very interesting, ally and adversary alike.
Visitors, okay, what we'd like to do is some roll call or introduction. Starting to my right, we'll go around and first name and call sign. I'll start with Ken.
Ken, WB0L, I'm the trader.
I'm Joe, KJ, 4J, Papa Whiskey.
I'm Scott, N1TZT.
I'm Kilo Mike 4, November 5.
David, Whiskey, with W4W. Excuse me. Russ, KQ4HNX.
David, KJ4LHP.
Tom, KG4 CMJ.
Who are you? Michael, KN4VA.
Which K4DB.
Lynn, KQ4 YLD. Nora, KQ4 YLE.
Rick, KA4OHM.
I'm WA1UTO.
DK4DB.
Rob, Kilo Charlie 4, November.
JR4CCL.
Will. And I'm the secretary. John, KC4WT.
Whiskey 4 Sierra Bravo. Dan, N4DOB.
John, QC.
Alex, W4HAN. Bill, N4WLC. Dennis, K4DAF. Adam, K4PH.
Lauren, W4LEW, Vice President.
And by the way, I'm Darrell, WW4. Those, via Zoom, we can, I'll have Ken read them off that are visiting via Zoom.
Harry, could you give us what your call sign is?
Barry, can you unmute?
He's done unmuted. Harry, you bet. Harry, you bet.
What's KG, Tom is KG4BIC. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening.
Your call sign?
K4PKB.
Okay, we got Tom, AI4TH, David, KN4L,
PK.
L, N. Kathleen, you're here. K5HTZ. Another David, KM4L, I did you one, couldn't I? LPH. We got Tom, and then another David is WD8OIS. We got 8 people on Zoom, plus David.
Thank you, Ken. So with our newsletter, we attach our minutes for the last meeting. Are there any corrections or updates to those minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Moved.
A second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved as written. Treasurer's report? Tim?
Okay. Right now, fill myself on the course. Okay. We started the month with, $18,681.67. We had, 2 new dues, so that's $44. And then person donated their dues, $22 to the club. So that comes in as a donation. So that's $66 we had as income. We killed that on, BISA. William Grant got, for D-Star, $234. We had 2 people who signed up for the D-Star class, which did not occur, so we refunded both of those people $10. Because I mailed some stuff out, like those 2 refunds. I had to go to the post office and buy stamps, so that's $29.08 or $29.20. Then also we used to be using return address labels that were graciously giving to us from veterans of foreign wars because we gave a donation years ago. So I bought some new return address labels for $68.99, a ton of them. And we have one other refund for $22. And so $338.53 went out, leaving us $18,409.14. So that's the trading report. Remember tonight. Ricky Eaton, AB4FJ, who's an extra. I have Lynn Davidson, KQ4YLD. I have Robert Gottschalk. That's me. That's you, it's okay. Say your last name, because I'm sure I've heard of it.
Gottschalk, GOTDS.
Yeah, call sign K4ADV, he's an extra. And in the front row, Gene Thomas, KM4NNP. That's the new members. Can I have a motion to move the? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, you're a member now. In the book, as members, if you a chance you didn't sign in as a visitor, check back and mark your name. Anybody else who didn't sign in?
I have a question.
Sure.
If I heard you correctly, you said that the D-Star class was canceled.
Yes.
Did you mean DMR? Because
No, DMR went.
DMR went, D-Star went this morning.
Yeah, I tried to get a hold of you, but the information in the registration that didn't have your phone number correct.
no kidding, I'll straighten that out.
It was 209-43 was your phone number.
No,
So it wasn't typed in right. We didn't know how to get a hold of you to see if you were coming or not.
I couldn't make it, sorry.
Yeah, but we did have the DMR.
So, yes,
Yeah, I wanted to become a member too, but I didn't know how to do it.
oh,
Will I be able to do it after the meeting or by mail?
yeah, what you do is you go to our website, and there is a, registration form. So over on the right-hand side, it's under forms. It's under forms, and I think it's the 3rd one down. It says registration. It says registration.
And then I'll pay online.
And then you can pay online, with a credit card. It goes via PayPal.
Okay.
And we pick PayPal. Some people go, oh my God, I hate that. But, they don't charge us a monthly fee. And, we couldn't afford what most banks or anything else would charge us. So, PayPal handles it. You do not have to have PayPal. You can just use a credit card. And it's down on you get to the PayPal site after you fill out the registration form, you say submit. Takes you to a form that describes where on the form that you want to go if you're not a member of PayPal. It's down at the very bottom. And you say, I want to do the PayPal part, which you pay. And then you're then taken to the PayPal site. We have no clue whatever it is you entered. PayPal does. They send you an email that said, hey, we did this. They send me basically a copy of that. And then I get both that and the registration form is submitted. And then at the next meeting.
And I'll be, you remember?
Yeah, you'll be a member. So, and once I get the notification from PayPal, if you're doing that, or if you mail a check to our PO box, which is the other way. Either case, I will send you an email saying, I got it.
You're in.
You're almost in. We have to do this vote, but
Oh, I see.
pretty much you've done everything to qualify.
How often is this meeting?
Sorry,
How often is this meeting?
once a month,
Oh,
second Friday of every month. So, and you have a call sign?
yep.
Okay, so, because I was gonna say, we keep you by system.
Yes, I just passed my general
She
yesterday.
does it, right?
Your name, right?
I'm Nora.
You're Nora. Nora.
I said, you already that.
Yeah, you did. Who was the third one?
Allison.
Allison. Okay. Super. Thank you. Thank you. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Do we have a school update tonight?
No, I think we kept the general people just took evidence tonight. So fast, and you're close, because you have to study by yourself.
Could maybe.
Right, so, we're doing pretty well, and, that could be closing up here pretty soon. And I don't know where actually it's. Yeah, May end kind of the beginning of May.
We finished the week of the tests.
Right.
Yeah.
May 10th or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, maybe, whatever,
Yeah.
that Thursday.
General is it runs shorter, they back there know about it, and so they took their test.
Good, thank you, Bruce. D-Star, update everyone.
Quick, I got a couple of things, but they're all real quick. So I've told you our saga of upgrading our D-Star gateway, which is a computer that runs the internet connectivity at the repeater site, and we bought a new one, put it in, it ran for a week, and then it stopped working. Driving downtown and going up to the top of the building a couple of times, I said, this is getting old real fast, we gotta fix this, I can't come down here every day to reset the repeater, so we bought another piece of hardware. Not much money, or used, refurbished, and we hooked it up, and it's run flawlessly for 2 weeks, never a single hiccup, so I think we got that part fixed. The other thing I want to say about D-Star is, I told you before that it's digital, and if you key your radio on the D-Star mode and the digital mode, this is what you'll hear, or something like this, beeps, a beep, 2 beeps if I've got a strong signal. All right, we got 1 beat on that, because I just keyed it up a second before. So anyway, but if you don't have a D-Star radio and you want to use the W4FJ repeater, you just dial in the frequencies, the VHF and UH frequencies are on the website. And your analog radio, just put in 74.4 for your sub-audible tone, and you will hear this. W4FJ, yeah, CWID. So it repeats whatever it hears. If it hears an analog signal, it repeats it in analog. You don't have to do anything. Now, unlike Yaesu radios, which have automatic mode selection with most of their radios, they will switch between whatever it hears. D-Star won't switch your radio. You've got to tell your radio what you want to use, what it do. Tomorrow is the 10K race that Jim, no, PKRs, see outside, okay, Jim and Dave White they asked us if they could use the UHF repeater in analog mode tomorrow as a backup repeater for the race. That's a 543 is, quote, effectively down. And we said, sure, help yourself. So they tested it out along the race route on Wednesday. I heard them testing, and it works great because it's 320 feet above the race route. I think if anybody who was at the race tomorrow can look up, and if they know where to look, they can see the antenna probably. So it's in an ideal location for a race through downtown Richmond. So they're gonna use that tomorrow. So if you have a D-Star radio, or if you've decided to put your analog radio on the analog frequency, please don't transmit a general conversation, but one day only, because they're gonna use it for the race as a backup, and maybe they'll use it, maybe they won't, but you might hear some activity on there. But we're trying to make full use of our equipment in two different modes that it supports. Yes, Bill.
When it's set for analog, should it just have tone swaps on so that if digital tries to come through, it will blank it out?
Yes, please set your receiver tone squelch on. It transmits 74.4 as well. So it will mute your radio so that if somebody transmits in a digital mode, or if you're getting intermod wherever you are, you won't hear anything unless, you're supposed to hear it in FM mode. So yeah, we have that tone
And you
set
can
up.
see if it's that active, because it'll be lighting up for you to see the activity.
You might see some action, but we'd ask people, we're not gonna link the UHF to anything tomorrow. Sometimes we've been linking it to reflectors, to get some traffic on there, and to test it out. So Jim Bates and I have set it up so that there won't be any linking on, going on during the race. So if somebody doesn't inadvertently link it to a reflector, and all of a sudden, if you're in analog mode, you just hear a big loud buzz, which is what digital sounds like on an analog receiver. So that's D-Star. Everything's working great. Please use it, enjoy it. Call me if you have questions.
Thank you, Win. Remote station status? Working.
Sounds great, yeah.
Great, good. All members have access to the remote station that's here. It's an antenna, so it's a transceiver upstairs and over the internet and remote client. You get access and operate that radio according to the privileges, your license.
UHF, VHF, HF.
Right.
160 to 60.
One final comment on it for the new people who were voted in tonight. You will not be in until Monday. I have to generate it and move it over to the radio. If I work real hard to be there tonight, but I probably won't, but by Monday for sure, we will be in. And it, we go through.
There are numerous nets, and you can find the net activity related to the Richmond Amateur Radio Club via our website. And you can look at calendar, and you can see the 6 meter, 80 meter, 2 meter nets, 10 meter D-Star, 6 meter. All of that's going on. There's another net that Will was telling me about that may be coming in. Maybe there's an update on that. The DDXG wanted to create a 40 meter net. Now,
Every second Tuesday of the month.
second Tuesday of the month.
Yes, all welcome.
What frequency? It's 40 meters.
And it's, goes on the paper that.
725.
There it is, 7258.
7258, second Tuesday at
Please, all welcome.
and 7 p.m.
7:30.
7:30. Tom?
We have a 40 meter net Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. 7234. It's posted by some folks up in Ohio and New Jersey, and we've been on that for years. Steve and I get on that. In the morning, we have to wait for another group that's on 7235. So when they finish, we get on 3-4. So anybody's welcome.
Anybody want to listen to the calendar, send me an email notes. What day of the week is that?
9 Monday through Friday, it's called the Dowser Net. Was founded by some people back in the 70s. So it's been in operation a long time.
What time in the morning?
8 o'clock. 8 in the morning, Monday through Friday, 7234. Sometimes conditions allow it, sometimes they don't.
Thank you, Tom.
You're on.
Group activity. Any group activities, builder group, voter plan, voter activities, neighbor group activities?
Yes, sir. Coming update on the general class. We gave exams, last night. We had 3, takers out of 6. One couldn't do it, another person dropped out of the class. Of the 3 that took it, 2 got 100%, and 1 person did not get through.
Thank you for the update, yeah. And congratulations to those who passed. Let's see, club activities, other, with the one I have here is the Central Virginia 6-meter sideband net. They will have their tailgate fest. That's coming up at the.
Tomorrow morning, we have rain or not.
That's the, at the National Memorial.
On our website, under feature content.
Yes. So let's go to, is there any old business that we,
Mr. Lester, can you go ahead?
old business that we need to touch on? Somebody needs.
It's all here at your neighborhood Chevy store, Haley Chevrolet.
How about new business? I've got some new business. The, as we sent out the newsletter, we mentioned that there's, we're asking for, we want to discuss the donation to the Metropolitan Repeaters Association. That's down due to a feed line problem. And they were here last week, talked to us about the problem they found in the feed line and the potential cost that the low end would be between $3,500 and $4,000. And so they have been recruiting the numbers and asking for donations. And the board met earlier this week and we approved the board a $2,000 donation to help get that repairs. But that's not our repeater. So we wanted to bring that to the membership and ask for a motion that the board proceed with that donation to the MRA Repeater Association, the Metropolitan Repeater Association. And there are a number of reasons that we wanted to ask you for that motion. It's a very wide range repeater. It's one we rely on a lot. We use that repeater, and some of our hams that need to join an analog repeater, that's the one that's the go-to repeater. So wanted to ask you, do we have a, go ahead.
I so moved.
We have, I was going to ask whether any other questions or any concerns about the donation. We have a motion.
Second.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
We'll proceed next week with the donation to the Metropolitan, $2,000 to the Metropolitan Repeater Association. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have it, all right.
Field days will be coming up. And in the past years, we have always been invited by RATS to join them at the park in Glen Allen that and participate in that setup. So we thought about that. We discussed that at the board meeting. We would like to do that again this year. And we would like to bring some of the new amateur radio operators. Have them escorted, maybe the teachers or maybe some could come out to that event and get them out to the field day and encourage some participation. We wanted to bring that up now so that it can be somehow coordinated with the folks at RATS, how we might do some counseling at field day with some of you guys. So need volunteers to be there.
What's the date?
It's the field day is in June. It's the last
Third weekend, I think.
third weekend of June. So that's Saturday and Sunday. Run through this, but you don't have to operate. But to go out there for a couple hours at least, make some contacts, see how you set up a portable operation in the field. The field, RAT's does a really nice job. I heard about the antenna they raised and the loop antenna, but that's worth the trip to go see and set that up. Field day, AWRL. And you'll see it. RAT, the Richmond Amateur Radio Telecommunications Society.
So, Bill could correct me if I'm wrong, but the Rats Field Day is going to be at Pocahontas. It's not going to be at Pocahontas.
We're still gonna do it at Laurel.
Oh, okay, it's going to be at Laurel Park.
Yeah, the Laurel Park and Glen
And
Ellen.
then Powhatan will have theirs at the Fighting Creek Park
Mhm.
as well.
And then the one we have, the Rats one out, Laurel, we usually, the RARC gives the exam, you have to do it at 2:00. So anybody that wants to take an exam at that,
Any upgrades here? So if you want to upgrade, you can get the upgrade down the field day too. Then not that far, not Laurel. But the Pocahontas might, but we have to figure out, who you're meeting. Who you have to. What was the question was, camping overnight?
No camping at Fighting Creek that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I said at the board meeting, if you've never been there, go about 10 o'clock, help do the setup. And they have this huge loop antenna. The antenna would not fit this room, okay? It's a huge thing.
150 meters.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they raise it about 10 or 12 feet off the ground, so it's laying on the ground. And then up,
They go from the light.
yeah, they go from the overhead lights, so they have, the last time I was there, we had a guy who had a fishing rod, he was cast it over, pulled it out, and they connect it to the antenna laying on the ground, and then raise it, and they raise it about 10 feet and verify that everything's fine, and then they take it all the way down. But that first raise off the ground, it's like, whoa, you don't know how big it was, or the first time I went, I was like, wow. So it's a rather, something to see, and you can help, and as the President said, it's operate off the grid. So power generators or batteries, 1 year I was there, and some guy had brought in his solar array to power his radio. So it's, run off the grid and, see how many contacts you can make. So it's basically a very contacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
on battery and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they always have equipment that, as long as you have even if you don't have your license, and will sit with you, you can be on the radio. So, if you have your license, you get to sort of sit and somebody probably watch it, but, you get to get on the radio and try to make some contacts. So it's a sort of a contest as well as, working off the grid. So it's a fun thing to do.
Let's see, other new business. So you see, some of the board members are wearing some badges. And under the umbrella of, the title of, publicity for the club, we do brochures, that we published and, we're distributing. And, we thought it would be a good idea for us to have badges. Their call sign and the club logo. So that's why we have a little larger, the special design. So the board asked Rob Thomas, can you come up with some ideas? Well, he didn't disappoint. Rob never disappoints. He came up with some nice ideas, many ideas. And so we're going in the direction of a badge, like you'll see Bruce wearing, Rob, myself, Will's having. And we were wondering, this is in the early stages, but the direction this is going we wanted, to show of hands, how many would like to have a badge like this too? All right. So what, direction we're going is, we've got some details to work out. Lanyards, we might get some lanyards that are woven with Richmond Amateur Radio Club, finalize the design, the actual materials we'll use. And we will probably produce them over TAC RBA. Does everybody know TAC RBA on Dabney Road? So it's, we can laser cut them, print these labels, maybe 10, 12 people together on a Saturday and make these labels, make these badges. And the first badge won't cost you anything. But of course, we have to look a few steps ahead. We'll have members like we had 5 join us last month, 4 this month. Over the course of the year, we'll have more new members. So we'll probably need to run some more badges. We won't do this again. We'll do a new design. It might be rectangular, might be square. Maybe we play with the colors a little bit.
I found something out when I was doing this, because I was going to do, I did a couple of square ones,
Right.
but I did them with small names, and then I realized that if you're gonna do Daryl Bassinger, or, Adam Humphrey, you're gonna need a badge this big, but on a circle, you see,
Yeah.
with a circle that size, it's only 3 inches, you get, on that radius, almost 6 inches worth of letter space. So I think they probably will be staying around.
Okay.
So I'm just telling you that,
Okay.
because otherwise there's not enough real estate, or you couldn't read the letters.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's important to be able to
Yeah.
do. So, but the intent is there'll be another design, and maybe in 12 months after the initial production, there'll be another run. And there's going to be a different design for those, and we will give the new members, they will be given a badge. And the existing members can purchase the second badge if they'd like to do that. So it's, have some fun with that. So that's we haven't nailed it down completely, but that's the direction we're going in. And if you ask, you have to ask, we're just not going to produce them for all 100. Well, we have 146 on there. We're just not right off the bat. So you have to get in touch with us and ask for it, and we'll do it. But we're not just going to run them off for everybody. So I'll keep you informed in the next meetings, like how we're progressing, and when that comes to fruition. The last thing I have under new business is we want to do a meeting, and we want to connect to the 20-meter antenna out there, and we want to get some of the new cams on the air during the club meeting. Well, that club meetings we focused on new members, new hams getting on the air. So I'd like somebody to take the lead on that. We probably need about 125 foot of RGA, or G13.
Somebody
But I need somebody to get it here, have a station here set up, and help, with help folks make contacts on the air during our club meeting period. And this is part of what we wanted to do this year, is to be focused on the new hams. And this is just one other thing we want to do for the new hams. So get with,
I'll volunteer for that the next meeting.
I've got July open. July, I know it's open, but I probably could bump somebody up. I could take the guy I have in May, I probably could move him to July. But we'll talk about that separately. Great, thank you for all.
I've got 100+ speed of RGA, just get inside.
And you have a rig you can bring with you?
Yeah, rig, and I've got a 40-meter hustle whip on top of the car.
No, a transceiver.
Yeah, and a transceiver.
You have a transceiver, because we have the 20-meter antenna backpack. We'll get, I think we'll make contacts. That time I was thinking July, that time of year, 20 meters is still working pretty good for TX contact. It's still be.
I'll have to leave right.
Okay.
We'll set it up back there because you need to go out the kitchen door to plug it into the light.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we need to turn the room around. Oh, that would be that.
So, any other announcements?
just a brief announcement about V-Band. It still exists. It didn't go away. It's
Okay.
Easter, so we've been missing things, trying to run from choir practice back there, but I'm usually there.
Okay,
I have missed it this last time because, well, I just did. But anyway, there's usually somebody there and we get people from all over the country now that are kind of regulars. And, we appreciate their sense of humor and, they always have something to say. And we have one guy from Japan we haven't seen from a while, but he used to come in, Yushi. And, so anyway, it's fun. There's no pressure. You can just, listen if you want, but we really encourage everyone to try to send code. And we have a little dongle that you can get. And I still have about 5 or 6 of those that I can put together for you. And, it's, for the materials, $25. The one online costs $25, but then I think the shipping's like $15 or something. And we said, we build our own stuff. So anyway, we made these. They work really well. And what they do is they turn your key into, a USB device, basically. So you can use your either an iambic key or a straight key to get on, and then you can, it's like a chat room, but you're sending Morse code. And it's really fun. It's Tuesday night at 8:30.
8:30, yeah. That's the virtual CW band. That's one line. So if you're those interested in CW and need to practice, that's a nice, safe place. Nobody's critical. You get plenty of encouragement, no criticism. You'll jump on and, practice it.
Yeah, this will be banned and it'll take you right there. And you can practice by yourself too.
Yeah, that's true. Any show and tell?
Right about seeing them. In my box.
Great outdoors. And what I have done in the past is just try to get a wire up in a tree. That's sometimes easier said than done. There might be too many trees, there might not be any trees, and then some of the state parks, they want to put a wire up in the trees, and if you, a guy who uses slingshots and things like that, that may be different or dangerous around people. So I've seen a bunch of portable guys using masks. So I did some research on masks, and I got this one. It's almost 32 feet, fiberglass. It's got a little swivel at the top. This one is billed as being more solid than a lot of the other ones. It does not, according to the reviews I've seen, bow as much at the top. Some of the less expensive ones, it's heavy, weighs about 4 grams. It's not one you backpack with, but there's a number of ways to mount these. Some people, there's a drive-on mount. You can, if you wanted to mount it in the ground, you could lash it to a tree. What I'm going to do is just lean it up and use some of my lightweight infrared antenna. So this is another alternative to portable, to throwing wires up in trees for portable use. It's from a company called T&07 in Tennessee. I've got his card.
What's the cost?
I think it's, with shipping, it's about 160. But this is supposedly sturdier than MFG and some of the other versions that are, what we leave the top, this top part is, it's pretty stiff. I haven't tried it yet, but it's pretty stiff. That's not going to go that much. So, thank you. Thank you, Greg. Go and check. Yeah, any other business, anything else I'm missing?
We're gonna,
Okay.
we're gonna mention the,
Yeah, go ahead. You come up here.
Just be careful going. That's the last flag.
I'm Joe.
Come on up here, Joe.
I have, one house, by Bird Park, actually, sleep in it most of the time, and I get up in the morning, look over, make sure that my attitude about the city is gonna show, but I look over there and make sure the Carolina is still there. I was curious as to whether anybody's ever asked the city about possibly putting something on the Carol. But meantime, I'd like somebody to come take a look at the house and see if Arts in the Park would be a good place for us to advertise at my house, with a sign or something, but I've got on another subject, I've got a realistic, 160, DX to 160, that I'd like to listen to music until I get back in the ham. And I'd like somebody to take a look and see whether I'd be better off putting a long wire or, putting an antenna on one of my chimneys. Would that be something somebody on the board would take a quick look at it before it's part?
I think, so what he's referring to is, he likes DX, shortwave listening, and the, commercial broadcast stations. And, but any long wire antenna that might, anybody living in that area might drop by.
I'd like somebody to take a look before Arts in the Park is the first weekend in May, so it's, not very far off. Somebody would take a look at it and give me advice. I need a mentor.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Carry. Anything else? Well, before we start with our program tonight, do I have a motion that we conclude our business meeting for about 10 minutes? All second? All in favor? I'd like you to introduce yourself, make an offer.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Scott, NYTCT. I've been in this group for about a year now. And I'm glad you gave a name tag, but I've always thought that it would be tough. But I mentioned, if anybody's interested in digital ham radio, FT8, FT4, I've got over 3,000 contacts in the last year and a half. I got a pretty good station running at my house, so I welcome anybody who wants to come over and see it. If it wasn't for the internet and YouTube, I probably never would have put all this together. It took a while. So if you're gonna go alone like I did, you wonder if you're ever gonna succeed. But I'd be glad to show you what I've got. You can operate it, see if you like it, if you want to go in that direction. So throw my name out there. We can get together anytime you want, weeknight or weekend, or next couple of months. That'd be fine with me. Wish I could bring it here, but just can't do it that. Very well, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Bruce. Yeah, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. So this gentleman's gonna crank up. We gotta get started. So those who don't know me, I'm Richard Gallatin before VRU. I've been running school for a while. And so got a lot of really good instructors. And doing a good job of getting people through. And yeah. So when I got into ham radio, which was like 95, I had a couple of buddies that some of you may know, Charlie Slade, W4CUB, and Bob Williams, AA4SV. Some of you may know Bob better because he was president of this club in the 90s. Anyway, I knew them from other things. I worked theater with Charlie, and Bob was involved, he and his wife were involved in my church. And they kept trying to get me to get into ham radio. So when I finally got into it, got going on it, I had two built-in mentors. And the two guys that got me into it, you got me into this thing, you gotta help me through it, right? So that kind of thing. But it's a bit of a problem. We've been talking about the fact that we need to do something about mentoring. And if you figure that we quite happily help pull 10 to 20 people a year get their licenses, that's a lot of people who can get the mentoring. And it's hard to get people to do it. So since I wasn't teaching this year, I decided, let's see what we do with the mentoring, and we tried group mentoring. So that's what I did. So this is about group mentoring. That's the group. And these ladies named themselves the ham radio chicks. I didn't think at this age I have a chick hanging around with me, but I do, so anyway. And two of them, Nora and Lynn are right back there, you just saw it earlier. And Allison, I thought was on, she's not, and, so, you don't have everybody here at the moment. And one of you has already gotten your general, so that's a good step. So can you put it forward? Okay, so one of them said that to me, and I thought that's a good insight in terms of what's involved in the new tech. All right? You really don't know much about it. Maybe someone brought an HT in and showed it to you, but you really don't know much about it. So here's the next one. So, this is a marketing campaign. I'd like to get a couple of you to sign up and take on the next group. We're gonna have a bunch of new hams in May. We're gonna need someone to mentor, and I think you can make this group mentoring going. And they help me figure out what the new hams needed to know. I'm probably gonna continue with them because a number of them are gonna have their general, and now we have a whole new mentoring to do. How do you get an HF? What do you do about antennas for that? What do you get gear for that? So I think this is gonna continue. So anyway, that's what I'm after. By the way, we used to like to call it being Elmer. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to most people, which is why I prefer mentor. But I did in fact figure out where it came from. And it came from this guy in QRT in 1971. That's where the term mentoring started. So we'll give you the next one. So anyway, this is the experiment. That's why I did it. Instead of hanging out in bars, I would do some mentoring. And anyway, let's just go to the next one. I'll have that. So what I said can is, can you find out who are the new licensees for tech in general? And so he gave me those names, and I said, note out to him, I said, what do you need? And these ladies came back to me. Lynn was the one who was driving for, she can't be here tonight, she's got a.
That was Emily.
I'm sorry, it was Emily, and she's taking care of her husband. He's got some handicap issues, so she can't be here tonight. But anyway, they started cracking up and came together as a group. They had bonded during their classes. I believe you all need to go off to Joe's Inn and have supper before the
We
class.
did dinner before the class.
Yeah, dinner before the class. So they were already organized. They just had to organize me. That was the thing. Okay, so these are some of the questions that came up. What radio should I buy? Every ham has an opinion about what that should be. I'm gonna give you mine, I'm gonna stick to it. Where do you buy it? How do I get set to listen and talk? And how do I get on the air without feeling like a fool? We talk about mic fright. Most people are just fine on the microphone. You just don't want to get on there and, you know, the certain jargon, the people have been there forever. I don't want to feel like a fool to get on. So that's one of the issues. And then what can I do with the tech license? So, where I am, the cat wasn't a part of it, he just can't keep his nose on anything. When I first got my license, and I said, what should I get? My mentor said, well, get yourself a good dual band radio. So I got this big monster. Okay, and it's big and it's heavy, it's tough. It cost in today's money about $600. The big expenditure be, I was starting a new company and I was having a tough time supporting it, but I decided to do it. This thing literally traveled all over North America. And I used to go into, not much for sitting around in bars. And what do you do in a motel when you're in the middle of nowhere, Missouri? Well, you take your roll-up J pole and you hang it in the window of the motel. You hook it up to that thing, you take your repeater book and you look up whether repeaters are in town and you get on the air until you get anybody. And if you're in the middle of nowhere in Missouri and you've got a W4 call sign, they're curious. So they'll come back and ask you what it's about. So that was great. That was a great way. I was traveling a lot more than I really wanted to. So that's how I did it. I also had a neat little thing I can't find. This is a good size antenna. I had a slightly larger one go on here. And this is a little thing you hook in the window of your rental car, put the antenna in it, and run the feed line in, plug it into and you know, some of these places I would fly into like Kansas City, I have to drive to a place in Missouri. So I find out what the repeaters were, and I call as they went along, got the company when I drove, it was just great, so. So anyway, that's what I got when I started. The problem with it is that you probably want, if you're really good HT, something you can use on digital, if you want to do DMR or D-Star, something like that. So my suggestion is you get yourself a cheap one. So the volt bag, which you see, the volt bag you can see on the far right over here is about $30. With the tariff, maybe $60. But in any case, it's a fairly simple little thing. It'll get you around. And I find I still use my volt bag in my backup radio. When I do the marathon, for example, in the Special Olympics, this is my radio. This is a really nice. This is like $400 cabinet. And I tried that. I think this is what I use. And I bring the volt bag with me. Because it run out of battery, I have some other problem, I can grab that one and go. So having a little cheap radio is a good way to go. And then later on, we'll get the fancier one. So then the other thing is the rubber ducky antenna. So this is the one I use. I have a regular small one on this. This one gives you a much better reach. I like to show off, like a nice great phone. It actually is useful because if I'm out like with the marathon, this is something else, right enough people can see me. Kind of dark out there. And so you get these, the two brands I found that work best were HTS and Goya. I think the two work pretty well. I'm looking for other advice if you have it. Then a vehicle mag mount. Again, that costs about $20. And an adapter, most of these radios, you can get an adapter for about $10. And so you're set to go. Then the other thing you want is you want someone in the ham radio community that has a way of loading up your radios with all the stations, all the repeaters, everything else. So we've got a master list that we've been hanging around with Club that has most of the stuff you want for around here, including the simplex frequencies. So we have those in your radio, and you just kind of crank it up. There are two systems that will do it, Chirp, RT systems. I use Chirp. With RT systems, you have to buy a separate one for each radio. With Chirp, you can do them all. Mostly, it turned out that Lynn had a radio that I couldn't find anything for, so we got to get that one ready up. But so I use Chirp to load them up. So then they go there with all of it. Now I do know one ham. Somebody I know Paul RTH. He loves to use his right hand. I never was good. So I prefer to hold the computer. Some other additions, roller tape home, which I get showed you here. There's a guy in Tennessee that makes one for $35. That's a dual bander. And he uses, this is the old 300 ohm TV twin lead. He uses the 450 ohm twin lead. And the other thing is what kind of external antenna to put in your house. So that's a matter of figuring out what your house is like and how you get control. You can, the robot J-pole actually, if you wander around and with some help of somebody else, find out where in your house this works best. You can put a J-pole either out on the porch or in the window and do pretty well with this roll of J-pole. But you may want to put a little permanent out there, and so that's where you need to get a piece of mentoring, perhaps somebody who lives around to help with that. All right. The other thing then comes down to when you get your new fancy radio, and that is a matter of probably picking up the digital load you want. There's a couple of ways to do that. if you've got a buddy who is on digital and you kind of want to hang with them, and they're on D-Star or DMR. What's the other one? P25.
C4 FM.
C4 FM. So those are the three big ones. C4 FM, which is J2, DMR, which is pretty broad, and then D-Star, which is Icon, Ken, and Ken was not doing this, Anyway, if you know you want to get on one of those, you go buy a bigger, fancier radio, buy that. The other thing you can do is get a hotspot, which is about under $200 in most cases. And with the hotspot, you can use alternately all of them. And you can try them out. And then you have the hotspot, even if you've got something else. If you go ahead and buy a DMR radio, you still got the hotspot and get the D-Star. I use DMR when I'm on vacation and I want to make believe I'm on HF. And so I want to, kind of fiddle around. And I remember first time I used it, I was in a condo in top line. And I found if I got in this particular corner of this particular room with my radio, I could get the DMR repeater in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And then, so I got on and my first contact was two guys who were talking together. One was in Israel, the other one was North Africa. And I thought, that's pretty slick. So that's one of the things to remember if you start mentoring tech folks, is that you can, with these digital modes, talk all over the world. So it's a reasonable thing to do. And if you get, and the other thing about that was the other one I talked to was a woman from Portugal who was in Switzerland on vacation. And she had a hotspot hooked up to her computer. And so she was contacting through that radio, and that's how I was talking to her. Interesting what you can do. What do you mean, like? So we had two formal sessions with this group. And then what this one such as that. So the first thing we did is the club has a bunch of little bulk bang radios, right? And what we do is we set them up with loaders. So they're marked on the back with a number. We kind of check them out, right? And what I do is I give them the loader in the box like this. And then what we do is we put them together. So, you put the battery on, you put the antenna on, that sort of thing. And basically that's a teaching kit. You can basically go through what all these pieces are, and what they do and why you have it. Because it turns out being a mentor is kind of being a teacher, only instead of you coming in with the lesson plan, you kind of figure out some of the stuff they need, but they're gonna do the lesson. They're gonna tell you what you need to do. Okay? So you have to watch the try on it, because what you're gonna do is you're gonna get stumped. Now, when you get stumped, if you're lucky, you've got someone like Nora there, she will be looking up things on her phone, and you try and wiggle around, and even if you don't quite what it is, and about the time you say, well, I'll look it up later, she'll come up with the answer. So that, if you're gonna mentor, you're gonna get used to that, okay? That's how the teaching goes. But anyway, and then what we do is we load them these, and they get on the air before they get their own, so they can go get their own later. So next one, if you would. So the first meeting was upstairs in the classroom. You can get a reservation to use the classrooms here. You can't do it during the weekday, during the day, because they've got the school over here. But you can do it at night as long as you kind of schedule it, or you can do a Saturday, which we did. It was Saturday, was it? Or was it evening? That first one. I don't know. Anyway, we got in the classroom, we put the radios together, and then we talked about all these various things we want to talk about, including getting into using your phonetics, that sort of thing. And we did a little bit of introduction to repeaters. Well, the other thing we did in that process was we did got on the air for the first time, just talking to each other on these in the platform. It seems so simple for us, we've been doing it for years, But if you've never done it, you gotta push this button, turns out in both things, which is a nice feature, you can have two channels in here, you push the bottom of the button, you get the bottom one, you push the top of the button, you get the top one, okay? Well, that's, how would you know that? That you kind of did it. So we spent most of the time kind of doing in the classroom, QSO. And talking around, what is it you say, how do you say it, and where you respond, then we talked a little bit about repeaters. Repeaters are a little tougher because you now talking to the whole world that can talk to you, but anyway, we went through a brief rundown of what repeaters are about. And we'll give you the next one. So that was the first session. Second session we did, which was they had gotten their radios at that point, and that was to program the radios. And, got some notes in here about watch yourself because I really stumbled on that. Both because I hadn't used the programming thing in a while, and I didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, so, the HPs vary greatly in how you program them, and both things are particularly in pain. And I use, Sure. First, because you probably know my last name, it's a Scottish ancestry, and I grew up in Maine, which means we're really cheap, right? And the nice thing about Chirp is it's free. The other nice about Chirp is you can do almost any radio. And so you can share, one of the reasons I picked Chirp was I had several radios, including mobile units, and they were different brands and different models. And if you use the software offered by the manufacturer, you can't have one set of frequencies you can move around. So with Chirp, the frequencies can be taken out into a spreadsheet. You can modify them, you can do them any way you want to, and you can put them in every one of your radios. Okay. So anyway, so the way Chirp solves this is you plug your radio in, and the first thing you want to do is read your radio. And in the process, it figures out what model you got and what little ingredients. What both things did is every time they came up with a new bunch to the manufacturer, they might change something in there, throw them crazy, right? Well, these guys have got pretty smart. This is Chirp, by the way, done by a bunch of hams, and it's an open source sort of thing. But they figured out how to figure out what exactly the models would have. So when they download, they figure out what you have. Then you put your load in there, what you would put up and send it back. Great. All right. So I've got an RBA repeater list, and I'm sure some of you do too, as well as the simplex frequency. And basically it covers all of this area. Nora needed me to set it up so we could get to Albemarle County and Rose area. So we added some to the bottom first. With Chirp, you can go out to the repeater book and bring anything in you want to. So you can load it up that way. One of the key things I found about the cables is make sure you get an FTPI cable, don't get a prolific cable. A prolific is a chip turned out by that company. The problem is that people have made copies of it. And Windows in particular doesn't know which driver. So if you get one and it's not one of the standard ones, it won't bring up the right driver. FTPI is a common one, and that seems not to have that problem. It looks like Linux, Mac, and Windows all know which driver to use. So you don't run into a problem. What the thing I didn't do, so you need to think about doing it, is find out what brand and model everybody has. And then kind of check it out ahead of time. And then make sure your copy of Chirp RT handles it. And then what I finally learned to do, the third best session I didn't tell you about, and that's where I finally fixed the problem of loading the stuff up. And so what I did was I took one of these and I practiced ahead of time. So I made sure I got it loaded okay. So I wasn't embarrassed next time I did. All right. So then we had a third Zoom session. We practiced using it on the repeater. And one of the things that's useful is, and we had, I do have to cover all of one stuff as well, but one of the things that's interesting is, and we had a little section of that actually out here in the parking lot, is you get on the repeater and someone says something and what do I say? Okay, and somebody makes a comment, how do I handle it? Because you don't want to look stupid, right? You're brand new. And you don't want to look like a fool. I certainly did that when I first started. And then I didn't get on the air program, you know, who want to look stupid. So, so that's, so part of this is you can get on the air with them on the repeater. And in the meantime, have this dialogue on Facebook or on the telephone, that also works. But we talk about, okay, how do I respond to this? What do I do about that? How do I introduce myself? So that's an important part, important to do. Tom arranged with the MRA folks to get a Tuesday night new ham session, which is every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock for a half hour. The problem we've got is that then the 543 repeater, we've got a limited feed line, and so we can't reach everybody. So that's our problem now, we're kind of stuck. They're wide enough spread out of where they're located, we can't really do that. You can't get into that repeater very located.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
I can hear, but I can't.
Yeah. So, so we got that as a problem. That's the only repeater that could really reach out all the way from like, from Shore Pump to, you know, up to, towards Ashland. That's the only repeater that can get all of that area. So that's our problem. You think the club repeater could get there?
Probably won't make Ashland or HT, little on their station.
Yeah, and they've all got HTs.
Hey, Bruce,
Yes.
the couple times we did it, with the new ham net, that the repeater was working. It worked very well, I thought. The girls got on and we had a couple of guys drop in and just chat with them and with each other. So they got a feeling for it.
The one thing I would say about that, I don't want to be too difficult, but, we had some folks giving them advice, and I'm not sure that's a good thing to do at the start. I don't know how you feel about it, but.
Yeah, that day, we were all in your house, so you would tell us what to do. When
with you.
yeah, we were all together and it was the first time and it was a lot of fun, but we tried to do it.
They were too bad. I mean, nobody was critical or anything. But it gave you a feel
Yeah,
for what the communication is about.
it was fantastic. It was
Yeah.
the first time.
Well, they're having a lot of fun. The
They
other
were
thing,
having fun, that's
the
all.
other thing that I get a kick out of is that they have so much fun among themselves.
Yeah.
It's, I think it's through a couple of guys who are on there, because they don't normally hear people giggle on the radio. But they were having so much fun, they were, so that I enjoyed very much.
But then when we tried to do it at home, it didn't work. That's
Yeah.
why what you're saying is important.
Yeah, that unfortunately, repeater got moving pretty quickly. And you may not know that the transmission line going up the tower, that's what's, yeah.
400 feet.
430 feet of transmitter, I think 310 feet of power, it's got a break in the line, or something's wrong with it. It goes up, it was 600 feet at the top, or 700 feet. So the antenna is 700 feet up. We got, and so, and the problem right now is we've got some help collecting the money for it. We just can't get a power plant to climb it. The main business is, cell phones. And they got ongoing things with Verizon and those folks. And those folks get the first, if they want something on the tower, they get it first. And we're having a hard time getting it. So we can now afford it, we just can't find anybody to do it. So anyway, so the third section of Zoom, we discussed the types of radios, that sort of thing. And we did the programming. And I don't know that, the other thing we did in one of those sections is I had it set up on a large screen, so I brought up the club's station. Because a tech usually can get on 10 meters. And the low end of 10 meters is pretty good here, I think. So we got on there but the band is really bad. But we heard a guy in Mexico, and I figured, I'm gonna show him how to pounce. I'm sitting there waiting for this guy to finish the conversation I'm gonna show him on the conference. He gets a long conversation with somebody else, thinking, took over the Spanish, that was the end of that. You know, you got a chance to show off, and you'll get to do it. Okay, we did talk about. If you, when you're doing, when people are calling out, making contacts, particularly in contests, and if you listen, you hear that on the weekend. This weekend, there'll be a couple of states that will have a QSO party, and what they do is collecting contacts. So all they really want from you is, you know, your call sign and quality of the signal, usually a serial, something like that. What state you're in. And, so what you do is you wait for a break and then you, the whiskey 4 Bravo uniform, you know, as fast as you can. And I found with some of the Eastern Europeans, whiskey 4 Bravo Radio Unite works better than some of them. Okay, so you vary the phonetics, whatever they take. And then they record it, you record it in your log, and you go on. So it's just, and that's something I started doing because, you know, just lands and strange voices kind of fascinating. So I started doing that. But working on 10 meters worked pretty well. I heard this guy with ex-Palestine, Mexico, and I figured we're gonna get this guy. But that's constant. And if you really want to learn this stuff, it's a lady in the backpack there, Lauren, who does this stuff all the time. And she can tell you how to do that, okay? And she and Ronnie usually have a class. They didn't have a call sign up this time, but they have a class every semester called Radio Sport and Contacting 101. And even if you don't care to be in the contest yourself, knowing how to do the pouncing, knowing what to say, finding your way around, knowing the log, that's all great stuff. And so they're going to teach you maybe more than you want to know, but you'll get as much as you need to know. So, I learned it by making a fool of myself. So we talked about radios, programming, yeah, okay, so. All right, the other thing is, by the way, this is what church. And if you're gonna do some mentoring, this is a good teaching tool. You can kind of look at this. It's good if you can put it up on the screen that you all take a look at it. But you can show them, okay, so here's a repeater, and you can tell it's a repeater because it's got this plus minus thing here, it's got an offset, and oh, by the way, it has a tone. Whereas this one clearly isn't a repeater, there's no offset, it's simpler, right? And this one down here, the repeater, you tell it's repeating because it's got this offset here, but it's got no tone. So it turns out it's just a repeater. Maybe the only one in town, I think, that doesn't have a tone. Yeah, that's true. And little things like, if you're reminded when we showed this, in Richmond, Richmond area, all use 74.4, and you go to, I think, Williamsburg or one of the other ones. Williamsburg uses 118.8. So that's a way to keep, because the repeaters use the same frequencies, 100 miles or so between them, in certain locations, like on the way down to Raleigh, on the 88 repeaters, and the 88 repeater down there, I got down about South Hill, and I get them both. Well, by having a tone in there, I can determine which one I get, I don't get the other. So, it's a teaching opportunity with this. All right. New Hampton net I mentioned. Yeah, and my personal opinion, you don't need too much any Alzheimer's, fewer hands are sensitivity. Until we get to it. I don't know how you feel about
The foreign language.
foreign language.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Okay, so this is part of the recruiting thing. I'd like some of you to, a couple of you to pick up for the next crowd that's coming out. You graduating your sure. I think you could do with two-hour sessions where you assemble a local radio. We can arrange for you to get the local radio. And do simplex communications in the classroom to start with, get them on the air, talking to each other, get used to having the radio, get used to checking frequency, that sort of thing. And then another section, where you perhaps practice with getting on repeaters, and then finally load up the radio with the frequencies. And, then I think as needed, you do Zoom sessions, that sort of thing. And I think honestly, as needed sort of thing now, we're gonna get together for some of the stuff to do some more. So we need some, couple of volunteers for the techs in May, and we may need a volunteer for the generals. I think what happened with me is I, did this tech group, and they're now getting their extra, their general, not your extra yet, your general licenses. So I think I'll be staying with them, and gonna move on to the next multiples. But this is the way that we can graduate 10, 15, 20 people a year and still have some mentors, but when there's a group. Alright. Call Tom or me, get a classroom schedule. You can get night schedule most of the time, if nothing is something else. You can get Saturday sessions. We can also set up a Zoom schedule for you, so you can use the club Zoom stuff. If you use your own Zoom, that's what you, unless you're paying for it, you're limited to, I think, 30 or 40 minutes. But you can get a Zoom session set up using our club's pay thing that it'll take you, you can use that as long as you want to. Yeah. Okay. Now, the other thing is I've got some resources you can use. This was the initial thing that I did, that basically went at the, here were the things they said they wanted to know about, so I put that list down. Then I have the resource. Where do you go, where do you get the, where do you buy it from, what's the cost? Got a little bit into getting into, digital gear, and then few things on 10 meters there. Next one. But this was the second we did, the first one. And this long list, we got to about here. That's probably that. And the rest of the stuff we pick up in that session. The next one. And this is a quickly review of how the repeater works. So this gives you a chance to talk about, you go up with one frequency, you back down with another frequency, it takes it in to the receiver, changes the frequency and up the power. So you're coming in here, you know, 2 to 8 watts, and going out and 25 and 250 volts. People are probably going to do only 100 gets and you come down at a different frequency for this. So kind of get into that. Then the second meeting, this is where we use programming radios, kind of, stuff. This is where we looked at the 10 meters. So we talked about some of those stuff. And I think what you do as a mentor will depend upon how you were led by the people you mentor. They're going to tell you what they need. With basic stuff like the stuff, we get a list, and after that, you kind of work what they need. Next one is, okay. Then the other thing that they got into was they wanted this better than rubber ducky antenna. So we got into particular choices. So I talked to them, they talked to me. So I gave them this list of these are some better than ducky antennas, some choices, some brands, where to buy them. Again, all the prices probably be doubled now. Then this is the roll up J-pole that's made in this country. That's probably what it's double. And then the idea of getting a vertical antenna for your car. If you want to stick it on a steel baking pan and you get yourself a ground plate and stick yourself on here. And then where to get mobile units, both in terms of a magnetic mount, but also the thread using in the lot, you may want a more permanent mounting, and then put those mounts below. Okay. Right. So I told you what I was looking for. Yeah, so that's what I've got. These are the ham radio chicks. I wouldn't tell them that name, but anyway, I like it. So you see this here, you see four back there. Yes, Emily's up there. There's Allison. Since I was with them, I had to have a chaperone. That's Tom. And then that's it. All right, any questions? So let's see if we can try and do a couple of folks for the next group. And I think the group member is going to work. I think if we keep this going, it'll work. Yes, sir.
A couple of pages there look like excerpts of literature you copied to the presentation. Is there some way we can get that and go home tonight and have it for our use?
we could, we will put this on, this will go on our
Website?
yeah, I can turn a PDF. Yeah, that'd be one of them. But in terms of the actual documents that I use, when someone signs up to be a mentor, I will pass those documents over to them, and they can modify it as they need to. Sure. They're basically Word documents, so.
I do have a question.
Sure.
So per the schedule, I understand that the technician exam is next Saturday? Or sorry, the second Saturday in May,
Yes,
and that's still on?
yes.
Okay. So I'm actually interfacing with a couple of other women who are interested in learning ham radio. So I think that the ham radio chips would be really awesome fit for us.
You're right, Adam.
Thank you.
I don't know, I'm getting bigger than I handle.
And so like, two of my peers are coming up from Roanoke, tentatively, it's the second Saturday. One has a GMRS, license and is interested in, I guess, programming the radio, to like a GMRS repeaters. And I wondered if that opportunity, would be available, provided that, you know, we knew in advance what the make and model of the radio is, and we thought that, you know, the programming people. Is that something that could be done on the second Saturday of May? Or how could I coordinate some opportunity?
Yeah, I believe Chirp will do GMRS, and I think Repeater Book does every GMRS in it. If you haven't, I think Repeater Book is probably the best of them. Once you look it up, you might actually go on a Repeater Book and look at it.
Okay,
And what you can do is you can specify what state you want to operate in, and you can do things like I want everything in the proximity of 25 miles, or I used to go to Maine every summer, and I actually could specify repeaters I wanted from Richmond up through, and I go up western Route 81, so going up that way and all the way up, I had a list of repeaters that I would program in my radio, and I just go up the band and do it from city to city, and just flip it over, so you can do that.
okay,
So so if you get a chance, take a look at something called repeater book, it's all one word.
okay,
And just see what you can do with it, but I think you can do HTMRS, and all those things can be imported in Chirp program radio.
okay,
But it's good to know the brand and model of radio, because sometimes.
yeah,
It's touching.
okay. And for my radios too, like I've never, I mean, I think the last time I programmed was DEFCON in Las Vegas, and there were a lot of like hacker related channels that I programmed in, and I would like to, now that I'm living in this area, sort of get an idea of, well, be able to program my radio, if anyone is running sure.
Yeah, but you actually look down on the shirt, on your radio. It runs in Windows and Linux and Mac.
Okay, all right.
On Mac, there's a little bit of touchiness because it needs Python.
Oh,
They have some instructions that are load Python on.
okay.
Get it to work, so. Yeah. So we are to
At some point you said you had an antenna that was better than a rubber ducky that comes with a valve phone.
yeah,
Where to get it? What do you got? Where to get it?
there are two, one, and I don't know if they with me, but, Goya is the one, this is an ATS. I think that's what it is, ATS. I put my eyeballs on to read it.
Locally or online?
No, I got it on, you can guess it where.
That's my
HYS. That's a good one. Some of the people may have some other good ones they know of.
Signal stick,
Was it
signal stick,
Signal Sync?
stick.
Signal Stick. Signal Stick, okay? Common. Common. These thoughts, this type, on HD? Use common, say Comet and Diamond are two other manufacturers. Yeah, so they make them for these, yes. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. So,
The Goya 77 VHF.
yeah, I've used both of those. And so, I bought mine off Amazon. I think this was like 17 or something. Maybe it's 30 or something last year, but anyway, we don't get it.
Any other questions or? Okay. So, we'll talk about setting up something with you, and then we need to get them so they start looking in the tech exam and get a generator license.
Thank you, Bruce. There's one more item. Item. Bruce, if you want, you ladies would like to come up front.
Bruce, we have something for you.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes, have to go back there.
No, okay.
Yeah, have to go back. So we're representing we actually wanted to call it Bruce Chips, but we didn't like that. It's a good name, bro. So we are doing it.
They have met my wife, by the way, so.
And I would say that besides all what he showed today, the idea of creating a transition from studying and understanding everything in concept to actually play with is huge. Even though I just got the general in my mind is like a salad of concepts and stuff. So it was such a great idea to have us all together. And we were already like, Lynn was the one who started and said, let's all get into study group. And when I went for the first time to the course, I was very intimidated because I thought, well, it's going to be boring, I'm going to fall asleep. And we just started to get together and party, and somebody made a meal for us, and so we were already kind of organized, and Emily was the one who contacted you. And I want to say that the spirit of studying, the spirit of wanting to do something new, and your spirit of actually coming to where we were and get us up to where you are, or at least help us to kind of throw us into the swimming pool without even knowing how to swim, and help us to float a bit. So that was really great. And so we have a little present for you.
I was a Boy Scout for 30 years. You know the silver awards?
Yes.
We now have the silver hand.
So, oh, very good, thank you very much. Let's see, if you start mentoring, you get the things to happen, right?
Well, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you.